coming to an okay. So what you have is that once you use standard commodity as the numerator, as the scale, because the scale will not change when you change wage or profit and the prices change due to
Yes.
that. So the ratio, so that gives you a straight line relationship with given R, straight line relationship between W and R, small r, which is rate of profit. And that is the most significant finding of that particular book, which is what was not understood by the Gheraniani and most of the Sraffians.
Yes.
What most? I mean, I don't know any whoever has mentioned before me the idea of commodity residue and how it is important for and the importance of because of that, the importance of standard system, standard commodity. The usual story which we all read was that standard system, standard commodity is not that central to Sraffa's understanding Sraffa. He
Okay.
just did it because, to solve Ricardo's problem. And he actually, in the book itself, there's a small paragraph, numbered paragraph, where he basically tells you that doesn't solve Ricardo's problem. So the point is that it doesn't solve Ricardo's problem. And so why it is there, which is taking 1/3 of the book. This question takes 1/3 of the book, and then when Manara, Italian mathematician in 1968, wrote a paper showing that in some joint production cases, a standard commodity may not exist in real space, real mathematical space. Sraffa got very, very worried, and he said that if he is right, then in that case, everything I have done will be wiped out because that's the central core of my findings. So anyway, so I mean, I with a mathematician, Swiss mathematician, wrote a paper on that, and we gave our own solution to that Manara problem. But anyway, so that's the story. So what he has done is very similar to what was happening in other fields. I mean, in physics, quantum mechanics was happening.
Yes.
But you have in linguistics already, socios and others had already come up with a structuralist linguistics, which did not understand meaning of words by going into its past and when it was, uh, but rather understanding meaning of word in terms of other words and its relations. So what you have is then in anthropology, you also have this Levi Strauss and people like that develop a structuralist understanding of anthropology. So what is happening during this period, which is basically early first half of the 20th century, is that most of the discipline, this development is happening independently. But people are moving away from the understanding, as if understanding, depends on causation. If we find the cause, you understood it. The structure of knowledge is a vertical structure.
Okay.
So you have a superficial structure here where you observe things,
Yes.
and then knowledge means digging in and then
Yes.
finding the
Indeed.
essential cause, ultimate cause,
Yes.
or essence of things. That is the knowledge. The knowledge process is the digging. That's why you say how deep you go and all that in your everyday, conversation also.
Yeah.
This is very deep, means that you could go very deep and
Deep.
find
Yes.
something. So superficial is what you observe.
Yes.
But then this movement is basically saying that there's nothing deep, there's nothing lying in deep. Your understanding can be formed by just looking at the relations in which things exist. So it's a structure.
Indeed.
understanding is to understand the structure in which things make sense, and there's no. So this is a opposition to linear narrative, which is always
Yes,
related to cause, effect, etc.
exactly. And
And so Sraffa was independently within this milieu of intellectual ferment. For economics, that's what he did.
yes,
He created a structuralist economics, which his students couldn't understand because they had not read any of this kind of literature.
literature. Yes.
And so they were only into economics, and in economics, theory was understood as causal theory. You have to
Yeah,
find the cause,
still
you
is a
know.
little.
I mean, you see, Schumpeter
Yes.
basically says, what is theory? Theory is like you chase a cause for any
Hmm.
phenomenon, and you ultimately find something outside of your domain. That's where you end. So
Hmm.
if I find the cause of value in psychology, that's it. I have found it.
Yeah.
Now my job is done. So, but he was opposing that, and so he presented a kind of framework
Hmm.
of understanding economics, of
Yes.
the modern economics, interconnected industries, and how a framework which the community was not ready to understand. They
Hmm.
were already, like, for example, there were linear uh, models out there.
Yes.
UNTS was already there. So when Sraffa is publishing very late in 60,
Hmm. Yes.
and Samuelson and people like that were saying, had he published in 40, it would have been a great contribution. But now, like, it's a
Yes.
Johnny come lately. It's a basically linear equation model and this
Yeah.
and that.
Yeah.
But all the
Unfortunately.
linear equation models and all other theories, they
Yes.
all assume constant returns to
That is the
scale.
scale. Yes.
Sraffa in the very first
Plus,
paragraph
yeah,
tells
the
you, I
preface. Yeah.
cannot assume any returns to
The
scale.
scale. Yeah. Yes.
If you don't have constant returns to
The
scale, the
scale.
whole Germane or the classical
Second
gravitation mechanism will not make sense. It will break
sense.
down.
Hmm.
So, constant returns to scale, all Sraffians implicitly assume.
Hmm.
Sraffa has said, I don't assume. They make all kinds of cockamamie story about it's not there. They'll throw hands here and there. But then again, linear equation will
Hmm.
come in and all those kinds of things will come in. So without that, you cannot make sense of it. If you look
Yes.
at it from those points of view, but Sraffa is much more revolutionary.
Yes.
He is not, and he knew that. That's why he says that, look, my book may not make any sense to you if you don't assume constant returns, because that's how your mind is trained.
Wired. Hmm.
But you should know that I don't assume constant returns. There's no assumption of it. So there's no constant returns, there's no equilibrium, nothing. What he
Nothing.
is saying is that after there are some assumptions, industries are interconnected.
Hmm.
Those which are not basic goods, there is a technique to get them out of the
Yes.
system. Natural nature like land, etc., there's a technique to get them out. He shows you that. Then you get a core of the system, which is interconnected system of industry of basic goods he calls. Given this basic goods is not just a simultaneous equation system, it's a subset of it,
Hmm.
because you can have a simultaneous equation systems which can be vertically completely integrated. That means that you go back to labor and nature.
Yes.
That's not possible. So this is a subset of simultaneous equation
Wait.
system,
So,
and this particular subset of simultaneous equation system has a property which is not, can be found in a general simultaneous equation
mission.
system,
Wisdom.
which is what Pero Frobenius, which people keep quoting, is dealing with. They're dealing with general equation,
Hmm.
simultaneous system. But one of the property of this system is that it has a standard system, and
Yes.
once you know that it has a one and unique standard system, you can show that mathematically, then all the rate of profit
Yes.
in the system, the observed system, must be equal. It has no other way to go.
Yes.
So it's very well structurally formulated.
Amazing.
That's the Sraffa I have discovered.
Amazing.
But the others have difficulty because up till now they have understood economics in a way which has to have cause and effect,
Yeah.
and to think in terms of not cause and
The
effect but
fact.
just relations. But this is what Wittgenstein also did,
Hmm.
moving from and that is under the influence of Sraffa, moving from tractatus to
To
philosophical
investigation.
investigation. We look at it closely. Sraffa disabused him of what he had, a picture theory of meaning,
Mm-hmm.
in which basically said that, we construct a logical picture in mind when
Hmm.
we try to make
Sense of.
sense something, a proposition, a logical picture in mind. And so Sraffa basically disabused him of that.
Hmm.
And then when in philosophical investigation, you get this very clearly spoken that there is no such thing as going into the depth of it. Everything is on the surface. All
Yeah.
you have to do is rearrange it, and you will see
Yes.
things like that. He says that in philosophical
Yes.
investigations. So what he is telling you is that there are language games, there are rules through which things relate, and you can understand. For example, earlier he would say that dictators would say that, uh, for example, spirituality or
Yes.
art or
Yes.
things like that, you cannot talk about it
Hmm.
simply because you have to be silent about. He's not saying they're meaningless, but he's saying you have to be silent about it because in language these things cannot be talked about.
Yes.
Now he says no, everything you can talk about, which people do.
Yes.
People talk about these things. He says that there are different language games. That's all. So in a religious congregation, you can talk about God, and everybody understands what God means because
Yes.
in that particular language game, God has a meaning, and people have well understood it.
Hmm.
But if in a physics conference, if you start to give explanation in terms of God,
God. Yeah.
then then it's nonsense.
Yeah.
So, what makes sense in one language game, if you bring it to the other language game, it
Yeah.
might become nonsense.
Yes.
But in
Similar.
its own language game, it is making sense. So
Yes.
again, making sense is a relational thing,
Yes.
the context and things of that nature. This is what is you see in Sraffa. It's a relational thing. Wages, what is maximum rate of profit is the productivity of the system.
Yes.
So there is a technical productivity of the system,
System.
and then the system produces a certain amount of surplus. That
Hmm.
surplus can be calculated. I mean,
Yes.
in one sense, when you have everything coming in, going out, you can calculate it, but that's not necessary.
Hmm.
Even if you have a system where, like, one industry is going away, industries are changing, some
Yes.
industries using one good is used more than what is produced, then in
Yes.
that case, in physical terms, you cannot count surplus. But then still you will know surplus because you can convert any system into standard system.
System.
And a standard system will show you that surplus is coming out. If it
Yes.
is coming out, the system is productive. So, given a technical productivity of the system, the surplus gets divided between workers and the capitalists. The way to divide it is conventional method is the rate of profit and wages in terms of
Yes.
how much hours of labor you put, and those calculations gets done in nominal terms. But the
Hmm.
real physical thing you can see it in the standard system. And so what you have is that for any nominal system you have, there's a physical analog to it, and that physical analog is what is the scientific understanding of what's happening.
Okay. But in this specific context, I mean, I think I was able to, I mean, through your lens, I was able to somewhat make sense of Sraffa. But I'm not able to make sense of the inflationary dynamics as such that we get to experience on a day-to-day basis with differing inflation rates. I haven't encountered this specific sort of notion with respect to Sraffa's work. I mean, do you have any idea of how he would respond to the phenomenon of inflation?
You see, phenomenon of inflation is basically a monetary phenomenon.
Okay.
The prices which we are talking about is the relative prices.
Hmm.
So orange versus apple. How
Yes.
many orange for how many apple? Now, if I make apple into my numeraire against which all the commodity I price, so
Yes.
many apples for so many things, this, that, etc. So that's how prices are, both in neoclassical as well as Sraffa and classical. Price they understand as a exchange ratio between two commodities. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, so there you will have changes in prices, but no such thing as inflation.
Okay.
Inflation would happen when you have money.
Money.
When you
Okay.
have money and all the prices are converted in money. So let's suppose that you have money in gold, and gold is
Okay.
a commodity,
Yes.
right? There you can have inflation in the sense that the value of gold has fallen. So
Hmm.
all the prices have gone up because you just found a new gold mine and it has become easy to produce gold, so value of gold falls, then
Yes.
all prices go up. Or your state is cheating you. So what
Yes.
it is doing is that the same coin they are just clipping some gold or silver,
Yes.
when they're minting. And so people have found that out. So the same amount of coin
Yeah.
now gives you less commodity. So it's inflation because prices are going up because people have figured out that the
Yes.
pound sterling is not as heavy as 1 pound.
Hmm.
So those would be the inflation within the commodity money.
Hmm.
But what you are talking about is a monetary phenomenon where the money is not a commodity, it's a fiat thing, government or reserve bank produces it and things of
Yes.
that nature. In this case, you are talking about prices of everything rising
Hmm.
against money,
Yeah.
right?
Against money,
This
but in differing rates with differing techniques in the Sraffian distribution system.
Yeah, in the Sraffian system, you have given a technique which you
Yes.
have used, so much of you have used, so much you have produced. He can give you what would be the exchange ratios, and
Yes.
that again he will give you in standard commodity. What
Hmm.
would be the exchange ratios if the price is if the profit rate is 10%? Then what would be the exchange ratio, and how much of wages will come out? Or
Hmm.
if the profit rate is 6%, then what would be it? Okay.
Yes.
So it gives you all the relations that it will have, the system will have. Now,
Yes.
how much it would be, that depends upon other things. You have to figure that out. That's a very another
Hmm.
big question which I'm thinking about, but it's a very difficult question to answer.
Okay.
Uh, but when you're talking about inflation, inflation is basically a monetary phenomenon. Now, whether how to bring money into a price theory, both in microeconomics of neoclassical variety
Yes.
or any other variety, it has been a very big problem because
Yes. Yes.
system does not
Absolutely.
have room for anything coming from outside.
Couldn't
In
agree with you
Shraffa,
more. Yes, sir.
he gives you opening, and that is that he says that you cannot take wages given from outside, which is what classicals used to do, because
Hmm.
I have to take wages in terms of standard commodity, which is a very abstract thing, and nobody gives wages in
Yeah.
standard system. So I will take rate of profit as given from outside, and whatever will come out will wages as a ratio of a standard commodity is the wage.
Hmm.
But rate of profit is not given in terms of standard commodity; it's a percentage. But then he says the rate of profit could be determined by the money rates of interest, you
Hmm.
know. So here he introduces the idea that there is money, and there is a money rate of interest. And so now you have to think in terms of how to bring in money and money rate of interest related to the rate of profit. If
Yes.
you can do, this is the question I'm thinking about, what would be the way to do it. But if you can do it, then it's a monetary economy.
Hmm.
And then you can also think in terms of inflation, recession, all those
All of
things.
that.
How could one think about it? But they will be very difficult to handle within Sraffian context,
Hmm.
simply because Sraffa is not interested in going into people's motive,
Hmm.
that what makes them do this or cut
Right.
output or
Yes.
increase output. I mean, he will say that whatever has happened, that is the data for me. On the
Okay.
basis of that, what I can say.
Yes.
So it has to be, the structuralist understanding has to be a very different way of thinking about
Thinking.
economics. Because up till now, we think about economics both in Keynes and is our motive. And what we do is like whatever we think everybody does
Yeah.
thinks the same.
Yes.
So we introduce ourselves into our theory and just move on.
Yes.
But Sraffa says no. If you want to do economics seriously, you will do it exactly the same way you will understand an ant society.
Hmm.
You will, ants are not going to tell you what is my motive for going here and running there, etc.
Yes.
What you will do is like you observe it very closely what they are doing.
Yes.
That is your data. On
Indeed.
the of that you can form an understanding.
Yes.
So for human beings also you have to do the same if you want to do a scientific analysis.
It has
You
to. Yeah.
can't use your psychology and then try to understand. That's why he in early period he wrote a piece, he entitled that a small paragraph, Man from the Moon. That if a man from the moon falls on the earth, and
Yes.
this is how he is looking at himself. So the man from the moon doesn't know your language, your motives, etc., nothing.
No.
So all he can go by is like he will go to their factory and see how they are producing, how much of this, that is they are using, how much is coming out. These are the objective data the man from the moon can
Moon.
get. And
Yes.
on that data, he has to form an understanding of why things are exchanging in this ratio and not other ratio,
Ratios.
whatever is happening. So his attitude is that human psychology, he's not saying human, there's no human psychology, of course it is,
Yes.
but human psychology cannot be an explanation.
For.
Our understanding cannot depend upon the explanation coming out of human psychology, human motive, and all those things, because scientific understanding, I mean, if I could see what you are thinking
Yes.
and hear it, then okay. But if I can't see and think, I can only see what you do,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then inferring that you must be thinking from that has no meaning. I just have to then take what you have done and
Yes.
relate to those things to make an understanding.
Like,
I have to cut myself from you and your psychology, your motive, all those things, because that's not science. That's the way he will approach.
true, sir. True, true, true. But I think for the first time, I'm just getting goosebumps in a way of speaking. Just such profound insights just being thrown around. I mean, this is the first time I'm experiencing this. So, you've truly, you've gotten into the essence of the individual. On a very fundamental level. So,
Yeah, you see, I mean, in one of the places Jeffrey Harcourt wrote
hmm,
that Sinha has managed to get into Sraffa's mind.
yes,
Uh, but I don't, I mean,
agree with that.
not agree, but you see, if you are a Sraffian, and I'm not saying I'm a Sraffian, I'm just trying to understand Sraffa. Uh, uh, but if you are a Sraffian, you don't want to get into anybody's mind. That's not your business. So I'm not getting into his mind. I'm just reading what he has written.
No.
That's my day. Yeah.
And interpreted it the way it should have been interpreted. Yeah. Or it should be
Yeah.
interpreted. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing is that you see. my coming to economics was not necessarily uh, what other people usually come to economics for. I mean, I
Hmm.
really was interested in Marx, and but my interest was little bit philosophical.
Yes.
So 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 when I was doing my PhD, I was reading more of different discipline things like postmodernism,
And
structuralism,
yeah.
that whatever was going on, whatever was in fashion those days. I was spending more time there
Hmm.
rather than reading economics. So that kind of prepared me in
Hmm.
a way to think outside of the mold. I can understand that very many people in economics simply have very difficult time, because when you hear structure, because Passanetti has written books on structural growth, etc.
And yes.
Economists don't understand what structural
You.
really what structure means in other disciplines. Because
Okay.
for economists, you must have read structural unemployment. What does that
Yes.
mean?
Uh,
Structural unemployment means that if an industry has moved from your town to some other town,
yes.
right? So by structure, they mean only the structure of the industries.
Yes.
That's the structure for them. That's not what Sraffa or structuralism as an intellectual movement meant.
Yes.
It meant that you move away from causal explanation of things and move into a relational understanding of things. So
Yes.
here the structure in Sraffa is not about just input output, but
No.
the structure is about how input output system
Yes.
relates to its distributional variable.
And the
So rate of profit, rate of wages, and your input output system is the one variable which takes that into account is the capital R, which is the maximum rate of profit. So
yes.
maximum rate of, and these people only look at the structure of the industries, but that's not structuralism. That if there is any change, this is what Personality does. If my demand changes from, let's say, cars
Two bikes.
to
Yeah.
bikes,
Yes.
then how will the
Yes.
industries move? That is what they understand by
Oh,
structuralist analysis. This is not a structuralist
yeah.
analysis. This is
True.
this
I
is
think.
not.
I think in terms of structuralist analysis, the Argentinians had done something, right? Raul Prebisch.
Who
The
who
Latin American folk.
say it again? I didn't catch the name.
The Latin Americans. I think they had something to do with structural economics.
Who are the? Can you give me some names?
I think there was someone called by the name of Raul Prebisch. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, but these are development economists.
yeah.
And his structuralism is similar to the same what economists understand.
Stand. Okay.
Not, yeah, but so this is what was also a problem. I was talking structure, and my sense is that my colleagues didn't understand that
Mm-hmm.
I when I am talking structural, Sraffa is a structural explanation.
Yes, sir.
They didn't understand because they could probably thinking the way economists think, but I'm not talking the same structuralism. I'm talking of structuralism of different disciplines.
Discipline.
It was
And,
a big movement. It was a big movement. You have in more or less now every social sciences has a structuralist. What they have moved away, post-structuralism,
yes.
postmodernism, all kinds of things. But
Yes.
the economists
They
are
have
completely untouched.
untouched.
This whole
I
so
think
that is.
I think our discipline has a lot to improve as of the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that all this postmodernism, all these things are great. I mean, when
I
it was
know.
going on, I was young, I was attracted to it. But my point is that people have in other disciplines thought about thinking
Yes.
differently. Economists are very conservative.
Absolutely. I
It's,
mean, terribly.
and the whole Sraffian revolution passed them by,
Yes.
and for some reason Sraffa was not that interested. He thought that they have to figure it out themselves. And
Hmm.
then again, the timers hit him by 1967, 68. So he probably couldn't be, he had his agenda. He wanted to work on general equilibrium,
Brilliant.
critique of general equilibrium, etc. One could see from his archive he's getting interested in. But
Yes.
by the time he finished this book, he was exhausted to a
Yes.
large extent, mentally exhausted. But his students couldn't take it up. They got sucked into reswitching this, that, and all kinds
Yeah.
of fights with neoclassicals. They just didn't understand the serious, because if you understand the seriousness of this move which Rafa made, it's not just classical economics and everything is Ricardo and all that. It's not there, because he's doing something very different. And uh, and then it basically is a very early phase, so you have to do a lot of work to now see where it goes,
Yes, sir.
what are the potentials, so nobody has explored it.
Hmm.
That's why Sraffian economics, people who were, Sraffa was great, but nobody does Sraffian economics. It's almost dead. After Germani's generation,
Yeah.
there's
I mean,
nothing.
what about the current folks? I mean, post the legendary Dr. Ajit Sinha, has there been any other? Um,
In my generation, I don't see anybody. I mean, most of the, you see, in my generation, what I notice is that you will see. But my generation is generation which is coming out in 1990s, early 1990s, after their PhDs,
yes.
late 1980s, 1990s. You will see that in 1990s, what is happening is a lot of encyclopedias are coming out.
Okay.
Encyclopedia this, encyclopedia
Really?
that, handbook this, New
Yes.
Palgrave had already published that. And so what is happening is that my generation of scholars
Yes, sir.
not engaged in producing new ideas. They are engaged in compiling
Yes.
and building their
Yes.
career on compilation.
Yes. No,
They
the tradition holds true even today, sir. Yeah.
So this is what that's the problem. I mean, once you see a lot of encyclopedias are being produced, and I
Yeah.
was part of that encyclopedia, the Routledge Encyclopedia of
Yeah.
Political Economy, etc. When we were young, this was because we thought that we have now, the Karaniani generation had done enough work.
Hmm.
All we have to now do it is to, make it into a forms,
Yes.
correct them so that the next generation, etc., will have it easy.
Yeah.
No,
No.
we have to do the work. We have to do real work.
True.
It's not just, and then my generation got very, very engaged. I think all generation gets it. Mostly got engaged into, who belongs in which club.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
People, serious scholars, sit around and do this and present papers on these things. Should they be in post-Keynesian?
Yes.
Which post-Keynesian they should be? What is post-Keynesian? This is just pedantic nonsense. Why? Because we got no new thought
Thought.
occupying our mind that we have to
True.
do this, solve this problem, that. No, there's no
There's
problem
nothing.
solving. It's just like, building your career, calling this somebody, this name, classification, encyclopedia. You
Yeah.
just go and see this is what is happening.
And you do a PhD to do all of this.
No, but then you make your PhD students to do
Do all.
this. I mean, if you look at any institution and how it dies,
Yeah.
this is how it dies, then your PhD students will be doing even worse kind of things, and then after three generations, it's over. So, uh, yeah, so basically, one has to, if it's heterodoxy, I am not somebody who thinks that, oh, orthodoxy is just bad and you call them names, etc. At least, they have a paradigm.
Yes, sir.
That paradigm, the general story that you can understand the
Yes.
basic economic problems by thinking about Robinson Crusoe is a very strong paradigm. You
Yes.
know, ultimately it solves a lot of problems. You can think and then mathematize it, and it can
Also
give you
creates new
all.
ones as well. But
Yeah, so it's a very strong paradigm. The story is can suck you in, and most of the discipline is sucked in that. So
yes.
that's one way of understanding economics. Sraffa was saying, "I'm giving you a completely different way," but this is just a prelude. It's a
Hmm.
prelude to a critique of this way of thinking. So why it is a prelude? No, every word Sraffa writes, he thinks a lot about it. It's a prelude simply because right now what he has given you is a set of propositions which does not allow the basic pillars of
Oh, yeah.
this economy, that it does not allow any psychology. It
Yes.
does not allow any counterfactual reasoning. Nothing changes. Now, within this context, if I give you a very powerful theory of value, which is
Yes.
the foundation of all economic understanding, well, you got something. Now, if you build on this can be completely rejected because you
Negative.
can
Yeah.
start to show
Yes.
that this is what they said, that things have prices because we give price to it, we value it, we somehow. No, that's not it. Here,
Very true.
without those things, I can have a whole developed understanding of what's happening in economy
Yes.
without taking account of your basic foundational, variables.
Yes.
So I have now created a system which can produce a full-fledged
Yes.
alternative. It will be the critique. So, but people had to work on it.
Yes.
See, the point is that Sraffa started on it in 1927, 28. He
Yes.
works for 3 years. Then he moves into Ricardo work or whatever. 10 years, what he did, nobody knows. Then
Yes.
he comes back in 42, works for 3 years. Then again goes back into Ricardo, and again 10 years, nobody knows what he did.
Yes.
And then, because he just destroyed those works. But then from 1955 onwards, he starts to collect his notes and then produces the book in 60. This
Hmm.
is basically, if we had continuously worked on it, it's a work of 6, 7 years, 8 years. So from
Yes.
28 to, even if you take 10 years, 38, if we had published just 38 and not worked on Ricardo, then at that time, this book could have made some serious impact.
Impact. Yeah.
But by 60, the discipline already, general equilibrium, had completely,
Dominated. Yeah.
dominated. And mathematical
Modeling
sophistication, that, uh,
within quotes. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and then linear programming, etc. All these things had been done,
Yes.
so it was easy to ignore Sraffa, or like what is going on is it's not that great. I mean, Samuelson did give it some importance, and due to that, and re-switching, etc.